Hi guys. Today I'm going to be speaking on the state of Colorado. There's been a lot of takedowns in that actual state, and it's actually one of the most centralized locations you can actually stash heavy amounts of actual weight. And to be considered a place where, according to the FBI, they sent a few lieutenants, but they didn't specify if they were from different cartels because a lieutenant can only be one position. It can be multi, it can be plural. So they might have some other info that they're not actually talking about, but actual lieutenant, traditionally, it would be almost like the right hand man to an actual cartel boss, the leader. He's able to actually make the call on actual hits on people, low level, nothing above his grade, and a lot of decision making. And that would make sense to send a representative, a lieutenant, to the actual state of Colorado uh, for the fact that someone needs to be locally to make the decisions on the spot. They don't have to actually wait for a wire, wait for a message, wait for any kind of communication with the people down south. This actual individual can actually conduct decisions on his scale of how things are actually operated and how how he was most likely identified. And I'm going to bring up a couple of actual scenarios, but just to understand that these are not. This is just my opinion and examples of how they get to the main guy. Okay, so these are two individuals. I'm not saying they cooperated. I'm not saying that they actually snitched anybody out. I'm just saying these are two examples of how they can get to the big boss, the lieutenant in the actual area. So apparently there was a gentleman. He actually, according to the FBI and local PD, they kind of stumbled upon him, and they don't want to actually give a reason how they led to this building. But apparently there was a bank robbery and an apartment building they were actually surveilling, and they found it suspicious that one individual male uh, went to his vehicle numerous times and back to his apartment. What that means, I don't know, but I've done that multiple times. So apparently, they actually watched this individual leave in his vehicle, and at that time, they had uh, a traffic infraction on this actual um, vehicle. So they pulled over and discovered $6,000 that could have been, this is what I say, they use the word could have been the money from the bank robbery. They never said it was, they identified that as a bank money. I call BS for the fact that them bills are actually, the bills that they give you on a bank robbery heist, they are all documented. The serial numbers are all documented. There might have been a tracking device in this actual, on these packs of money, but $6,000 is a handful of bills to have on you. Okay, so apparently they found this actual money, and lo and behold, they released this individual, but they kept the money. Remember, if you can't justify that money, the police can actually seize it. Remember, I made a video on that earlier, and so this actual they forfeit the money. This guy is not going to argue with the fact that he has no proof of actually having that money legally on him, you know. And as for him being released just like that, they might have been a trap, but apparently he returned to the apartment a few hours later, And at that time, they tried to talk to him, question him. He took off on foot. They caught up to him. They ended up recovering a revolver and 300 pills of fentanyl on him. So he only got 5 years for this actual uh, possession of a firearm and drug trafficking. Nothing about the actual bank robbery, nothing about the money is actually discussed. That department legally, on their definition, keep the money for that department and reuse it for equipment, supplies, or whatever they choose to use it. And so that could have been the reason why the FBI did not pursue bank robberies, because they would have had to give that money back to the actual feds. But since the bank is federally insured, the bank is covered up to $10,000. So it was less than that, so they'll get that money back. So now he's charged with the drug trafficking. He only gets 5 years federal time and supervised release. It's not parole, supervised release for about 3 to 5 years. So this would be a good actual source to help him out to get less time by giving up, or if they confiscate a couple of telephones or a telephone, they'll look up the contacts, and that's another good way to actually come to be on this actual lieutenant. The second example is a 36-year-old male sentenced to 16 years, 1-6, federal jail for distributing a controlled substance and conspiring to distribute with others a controlled substance. Apparently, the investigation began when he actually sold some coke to an undercover agent at a strip club. A little advice for people who want to do this: don't ever conduct any business in a actual strip club. Okay, I remember through the '90s, the Vice Squad of San Diego, you couldn't keep them out of the strip club. As a matter of fact, the owners of these strip clubs had to go complain to the actual city council for the fact that they were just spending hours and hours and hours in these actual strip clubs and getting no work done. True story. They had to actually go to a public meeting with their city council to address the actual Vice Squad spending hours and hours at strip clubs. Yeah, true story. So that right there is you can't walk away from that one. You can't walk away from selling coke to an undercover cop. At a strip club. So this would be another actual example of how they get to these actual lieutenants. Could be a contact phone number. Could be he talked, he cooperated, and the reason he got that much time is because he was already actually on actual release supervision from the federal government. So he was still on paper. So that's the reason he actually got the extent of time, that much time actually. And that's just the way it goes. And this will be another lead on actually how to get to the actual source, who's controlling the actual distribution of coke in a state. Okay, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.